Well, I have no repentance because it was an issue that was important.
It's clear that there was no evidence.
Listen, there's an easy way to resolve this. Let him give us his tax returns.
Retiring Senator Harry Reid with Jorge Ramos on Fusion, saying he's not sorry for making a false claim about Mitt Romney not paying taxes. Oh, that's a good place to start a political conversation, isn't it? And let's call in our political panel. Of course, on the left from Newsmax, New York, our friend Ellis Henican, a TV and radio commentator, and from our Newsmax TV newsroom, Javier Manjarres, the managing editor of the Shark Tank political blog. Javi, yeah, it's true. On the Senate floor, you got the debate and speech clause. You can say anything you want to. But this kind of political attack that was an out-and-out lie, he said it worked. I guess it did. But what does that tell us about Harry Reid?
Well, as we saw in the video, he was channeling his best risky business Tom Cruise impersonation. But the thing is, that pause spoke volumes. It was a lie, and he wants people to believe the lie. He doesn't care if it's the truth or not. He wants people to accept it and push it forward. Now, this whole thing that Mitt Romney should release his tax returns, you know what? Again, let's go back to what he said. What he said was a lie, and he thinks that people must believe this lie. Pretty funny.
So Ellis, you're chuckling. I don't know if you're chuckling at Harry Reid's sunglasses or at getting away with a whopper on the Senate floor.
Oh my goodness, JD, I'm actually chuckling at us. So here we are. We just had this really sort of hand-wringing, serious conversation about how terrible political correctness is, and then all of a sudden we're all upset about some political comment that somebody made on the floor of the Senate. My God, you could spend all day long finding untruths in the speeches that are made on the floor of the Senate and the House of the Representatives. This is in the middle of a campaign. You know, he was hitting the guy because, in fact, he really didn't pay very many taxes. Yeah, he paid some, but he made a fortune. And my goodness, so all of a sudden we're all upset that maybe, what was it, 3.5 years ago, somebody said something that you can fact check on the Senate floor. My goodness, take a cold shower, my friend.
Well, look, Romney should have paid more taxes, right, Ellis?
Well, no, Ellis thinks we should all pay more.
He should have paid more taxes.
And we should all pay more taxes, right? We should all pay more taxes.
To be fair.
Just what you owe, JD. Quit cheating. Just pay what you owe. That's all we ask.
Happy to do that. Okay, now let's move along because Romney and soon Harry Reid will be yesterday's news. This weekend's news, Hillary Clinton. I guess we got the pre-announcement of her official announcement going out on social media. Ellis, are you excited about Hillary's candidacy? Are you ready for Hillary?
Well, I'm more than ready for Hillary. I guess maybe that's it. Seems like it's been dragged on long enough already, hasn't it? Listen, I'm looking forward to a race. I mean, I'm a political commentator and a columnist and a guy with a lot of opinions. I don't want there to be a coronation on either side of this. So if we end up in the end with Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, listen, we'll make our best of it, but I like a little tussling between now and then.
What about it, Javi?
Listen, I welcome Hillary in the race. I'm looking for a good old-fashioned Democrat bloodbath because I know they're going to put someone up there like a Julian Castro that they're going to skewer one another, and I'm just going to sit back and eat my Orville Redenbacher popcorn.
Well, let me ask about possible Democrats, Ellis. You got Martin O'Malley of Maryland. Yeah. You've got the Republican turned Democrat, the former Secretary of the Navy. Boy, I'm drawing a blank right here. That's right, James Webb running. Is anybody else going to get in this race?
Well, Lincoln Chafee is now talking about jumping in. You've got the lovely senator from Vermont talking about maybe jumping in. There'll be a few people there. Let's see if they can raise some money and really give Hillary a run now.
I still think, and I'll stand by my words, that I think it's going to be someone like Julian Castro or Julian Castro. And I'm also hearing that Bozo the Clown is thinking about running in the race. So again, I mean Joe Biden.
Yeah, Biden. Who knows? Maybe Uncle Joe will make the race.
Well, speaking of that, kind of curious video yesterday. Joe takes a baby's pacifier and pops it into his own mouth. Now, is that going to help him with the mom vote, Ellis? 30 seconds.
Listen, come on, JD. Even you have to admit, you kind of like Joe Biden, right? I mean, he's a human being. He's a man who believes in stuff. He's not plastic and prefab like so many of these other people. You know what? Come on in, Joe. The water's warm.
I agree. I welcome him into the race because, again, it'll fit that bloodbath that I'm talking about. It'll be great.
Well, perhaps it is life imitating art. Wasn't it the Broadway musical of Thee I Sing that featured a fictional vice president by the name of Alexander Throttlebottom? Perhaps that's part of the humanity that Joe Biden exhibits through the eyes of Ellis Henican. Both our panelists are coming back. You stay with us. America's Forum returns right after this. Let's continue our conversation with our political panel. Radio and TV commentator Ellis Henican at Newsmax New York on the left, although he's center screen right now, and on the right, and he's on the right side of the screen right now, the managing editor of the Shark Tank political blog, Javier Manjarres. Gentlemen, let's talk about Rand Paul. He gets in the race and already attack ads about his foreign policy. Javi, is this a sign that Rand Paul is a threat to the Republican establishment, or is it just business as usual?
Well, absolutely. Rand Paul is a good candidate. I mean, he's not his father. I'm not saying his father was a great candidate. I think Rand Paul is a step above his father. But he is a threat to a lot of people, especially the establishment. But then they're attacking him on his position on Iran, and it's rightfully that this attack came through because he's skeptical, as he says, of the president's deal with Iran, the nuclear deal, but he supports the negotiations. Again, let me explain something to Senator Paul and President Obama. State sponsors terrorist list, Iran is on it, and we're negotiating with this terrorist state. So in essence, we're negotiating with terrorism, and he needs to understand that. That's going to be his big problem moving forward.
Ellis, I know you like to see kind of the fratricide on the Republican side, but getting out with these ads after Rand Paul this early, did that surprise you?
No, in fact, it didn't. But there's some things that are wrong with it, right? I understand running for president is a voluntary arena, JD. Nobody makes you play, and you're going to get beat up a little bit when you try. However, in this current environment, when you can do these attack ads anonymously, funded by billionaires, and yet you don't even know who it is, what dark forces are behind them, that's just plain wrong and un-American. I think if you're going to attack somebody, you ought to stand up and do it under your own name. I don't like these anonymous attacks.
Well, let's talk some about a guy who is not anonymous in his support. Earlier this morning, Javier, my friend Walter Jones, with whom I served in Congress, came on this program and said he endorses Rand Paul. Do you think Congressman Jones is going to have a lot of company? I saw that another one of my former colleagues, J.C. Watts, has weighed in favor of Rand Paul as well.
Oh, why not? Senator Warner, your buddy, is considered also an outsider. He's a very big critic of the Boehner speakership. Look, I expect more people to get in line and support Rand Paul. Why not? But then again, you'll see a lot of people also, elected officials, getting behind Senator Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and whoever gets down in the race. I'm sure, look, there's a bunch of, Marco's going to announce on Monday, there'll be a lot more people getting involved. But again, Rand Paul is a threat. I don't discount him. I just think his foreign policy issues are going to weigh big in this election. He's going to have a big problem contending with Senator Marco Rubio especially, and with Ted Cruz when it comes to negotiating with terrorism and with terrorists, negotiating his whole foreign policy agenda.
Now, Ellis, you spoke just a second ago about a need for campaign finance reform and the end to dark money. It is worth noting that Senator Paul has already sent, I guess in essence, cease and desist letters to television stations and networks airing that attack ad. Is that necessarily in line with Senator Paul's philosophy, the libertarian philosophy he supports, Ellis?
No, and it's also hopeless. I mean, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Here's what I wonder about Rand Paul, though. I mean, which Rand are we going to get, right? Are we going to get the isolationist one, more like Ron Paul? But he's been doing an awful lot of backpedaling in the last few weeks, trying to get more toward the center of the Republican Party. To me, it makes him less interesting. I want to let Rand be Rand. How about that?
Let Rand be Rand. One final note, and Javi, you mentioned it earlier, Marco Rubio expected to get in this thing in just a matter of days. What does this do to the dynamic in the Senate of the three amigos of Cruz and Rand Paul and Marco Rubio? Now they're all after the same job.
Well, remember, it's going to be interesting how these three quote-unquote waggle birds will fare when it comes down to votes. Look, when you grade all three of these guys, I think at the top of the heat, you're going to see conservatives and activists give Cruz more favorable marks than Rubio and Rand Paul. So it's going to be interesting because they are going after the same vote.
And so will we see the triumph of a kind of fusion of libertarianism and republicanism? That remains to be seen. Ellis Henican, Javier Manjarres, thank you for your time. And America's Forum continues with The Way I See It right after this.